Doing excellent.
Okay. How you doing? I think that was Mike. Yeah. Good.
That was Mike. Okay, I think that we have everyone here. So let me switch over to the agenda. And if we can do the mute, unmute, *6, that exercise. However, we want to keep it open and interactive, so there's a fine balance between the two of those. So let's just kind of use our judgment here. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. Welcome, everyone. We're excited to have another 2.5-hour session, training session number 3, and also glad to have Mike back with the group as well. Makes it a lot better when he's around. So why don't we just start off with Mike? Yeah, go ahead.
You know, it sounds like you're gargling.
Sounds like I'm gargling?
Yeah.
Yeah. How's everybody else? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Breaking up a little bit? Okay. Sounds pretty clear on my end, but obviously we've got to make sure it's clear for your end. Any better there? Mike, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mike.
Okay.
Fine.
All right. Guys, if it gets too bad, then maybe I'll hang up and call back in if we're having issues. So if you guys keep me posted. So it might be on your end as well. Okay, so I thought what we would do, in kind of usual fashion, before we actually jump into the agenda, let's just do a little bit of an open, interactive exercise. Let's review and recap. So I'll be curious, based upon the first 2 training sessions, the live training sessions, and then for those of you who have gone back to the recorded playback sessions, anything on your mind, anything that you need clarification on, anything you want us to retouch upon, just curious where everybody is so far. I know it's early in the game, only 2 sessions. But any questions, any comments, any things on your mind that you want Mike and I to address?
Hank, this is Jay Levitt. I have a question for you and Mike. On page 21 of the CPA Square Wealth Management Kit, at the 4th paragraph down, it says, Mike, do you have a certain process you use when working with CPA clients versus what you do normally with your other clients, or is it just a comprehensive thing you do with all your? Is there something special you do with the CPA clients versus any of the clients that you might be meeting with? Because it makes a process.
Yeah, the process, Jay, is that most CPAs, they want a quantitative result that they can look at, touch and feel, and audit, and just confirm your findings with. So I use a software program that helps me derive certain quantitative data that then I present to the client. In other words, it's a retirement income analysis tool, as an example, which is one of many features that exist within this particular program.
Is this a software that you guys mentioned at the front of the CPA Squared?
Yes, that's your wealth manager.
Yes.
And just to give you a quick example, if I meet with a CPA's client, I do this analysis and we arrive at a variety of different solutions, but one of the solutions is the required rate of return that particular client needs to make on their investments in order for them to meet their expectations, their goals, etc. in retirement. Now I have something that I can drive off of. So if the required rate of return is 6%, I then meet with, I look at one of our investment partners on the institutional level who has a track record of earning 6% over a 10-year period of time, and that's typically the solution that I go to for a variety of different reasons. First, it's justifiable to the CPA, there's quantitative backup, and he or she, meaning the CPA, is never going to get the phone call, why in God's name did you recommend me to Mike Novio? He put us in this small cap fund or this alternative investment strategy, we lost 30%. See, it's all tied in quantitatively to a required rate of return amongst other various solutions, And that eliminates the threat that the CPA feels that, Jesus, if I give this guy my good clients, he makes a mistake out there in the marketplace, I'm going to then lose the client because of the infamous phone call coming from the client, God forbid the market dips. And that, by the way, is one of their biggest fears out there. If I give a referral, the market tanks, am I going to lose the client from a revenue perspective on the tax planning side? So this alleviates all that tension based on a reasonable man approach. Okay? So that's the process, Jeff.
Okay. So you feel like, I'm sorry, it sort of backs you up then. Yeah,
it clearly backs me up.
Yeah.
Hands down. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Okay, any other comments, any other questions, clarifications before we move forward? Anything on your mind from the first two training sessions? Okay. Next thing then before we jump into the agenda is the so-called informal homework assignments. So we're not going to put anybody on the spot, but wanted to make sure, and obviously Jay, you have because you've gone through and I was the wealth manager kit. I'm hoping that each of you have gone through that page by page. Go ahead.
I had to leave a little bit early last time, so I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay. Let me show you on the website here. If you go to the member dashboard and you click on the turnkey system, just watch my strokes here. Go to general resources and tools, and at the very bottom, close to the bottom, it's the wealth manager kit.
Okay.
You click on that, and you'll see it is it's 30 pages long. And this will give you, it's good reading, and I'll show you the outline here real quick. And it's all these areas of setting the stage, how to realize the opportunity, how to capitalize on it, how to have the right mindset, what's needed to succeed, CPA prospecting, formalizing the relationship, and then once the CPA is on board, now what? And then how to make the most of the opportunity. So it's this 30-page training kit, training tool, if you will. If you spend some time, not cursory looking through it, but reading it, this is for all of you, if you read it page by page, line by line, and word for word, it will give you great perspective, great intellectual capital, if you will, and it will help you position, it will help you frame, it will help you understand a lot of different dynamics that we were talking about and how to best capitalize on this opportunity. So I wanted each of you from a homework standpoint to go through this and understand it inside and out. And then if you have questions about it, like Jay had brought up, certainly bring those up to us either on the training call or via email through Mike and his team and myself as well. But if you spend some time going through this, it's a very helpful piece to understand a lot of different moving pieces.
Okay.
Okay. So that was one of the homework assignments. The other one is the continued, and this to me would be a ongoing homework project until you feel like you've really got it down. And in my case, it takes 15 years, 17 years to really get it down. So I believe it's kind of dynamic, continuous, ongoing, and that is to spend time in the turnkey system, understanding the structure, understanding the process, the step-by-step, when to do things, what to do, how to say it. And again, it's a very, very difficult exercise to go through, but I would encourage all of you, because it will be the difference maker, to read things cover to cover, page by page, line by line, and word by word. It will make a difference. Trust me, it's a grind, and it's a whip, and it's really a tough exercise, but if you can spend the time and energy going through all this stuff and going through it again and again and again, it will make a huge difference. Yes, there's strategies and techniques and checklists and PowerPoint. There's so much stuff in here that you've already discovered, but your ability to know what's in here, how to use it, when to use it, why to use it, will be the difference maker. And you're going to have to trust Mike and I on it. It may not feel right. You may feel like you're much more advanced than this. You may feel like you've got it figured out. And maybe you do, but I will say that over the last 17 years and working with thousands of advisors, I can tell you, no disrespect to the advisor group, that they don't have it figured out. When it comes to a specific niche, there's certain logic, there's certain steps, there's certain ways of doing it and saying things that will be the key difference. Yes, you will have success, but you'll really capitalize on the opportunity if you follow, as we talked before, if you follow the system, you learn your lines in the play, and you're willing to do the work. Okay, those in essence were the homework assignments, is go through the wealth manager kit, and then continually ongoing through the turnkey system, and really immersing yourself in there and seeing what's in there and why it's in there and what the kind of the logic behind it. So a couple other things here, just because I want you to get the right frame of mind. Because again, I'll tell you that the key difference between advisors who knock it out of the park and ones who just hit their singles and doubles, and then of course the ones who strike out, is just that mindset. They get it, they know how to position it, and it will make a difference going forward. So the other thing I want you to think about is this: referrals versus business relationship. Now, we say this on a relative basis, but Mike and I will say that referrals is a four-letter word. Now, just understand, this is a relative game here. Okay? What we're trying to do, the best bang for your buck, the way you get the greatest amount of productivity, is you're creating business relationships, joint ventures, partnerships, if you will, with CPAs, accountants, and other key centers of influence. You're not necessarily just trying to set up a referral network. Now, it will come out that way in certain relationships, but what you're trying to do is drive a long-term, meaningful partnership, business relationship with a handful of key CPAs in your demographic area. So nothing wrong with referrals, because you're going to get them, and we talked about it last week, about the percentage of loosely managed referrals, proactive referral relationships, as well as the full-blown co-source revenue sharing. So you're going to get those, but the posturing, the positioning, what you're trying to offer out there is a business relationship, a business partnership. Okay? And then kind of along the same lines here is short-term versus long-term. Now, you can go in and you can pick apart the system and you can pull out some nuggets that you think is appropriate, and you will have success. We're not going to debate that. You will have success. You've got enough in your hands as far as the turnkey system, the training that we're offering. You've got enough. And if you want to kind of go your own way, take it and run with it, fine. You'll be satisfied with the results, but they will be more short term, and they won't be as significant. Now, you could prove us wrong, but in general, that's what we've seen out there in the marketplace. If, again, you do go through the motions, learn your lines in the play, et cetera, then that's where you're going to get your long-term, impactful results, which is what we're after, and hopefully what you're after. Is we don't want this to be a flash in the pan. You get a couple hits here and there, a couple relationships, get some business flowing, great, and then it goes nowhere. If you build the foundation, the building blocks, and you set it up correctly, now you're in a position to transform your business on a long-term basis. So that's going to be up to you, right? I mean, Mike and I, we can only lead you to the water, but we can't make you drink. You're going to determine, is it short-term, is it long-term, is it referral relationships, is it business development relationship, or business partnerships. That's all stuff that you will kind of noodle through and determine what makes sense for you and your practice. And then lastly, if you want real results, and our opinion, and again, it's just a real subjective number, but our opinion is real results is that $50 million of AUM or more in a 3 to 5 year period. If you want those types of results, then obviously you got to do the work, learn the lines in the play, and follow the system. Okay, I think we all kind of get that, but if it can soak in, it really will make a difference. Because I will tell you that when we revisit relationships and we try to help and support and service our advisors, you can clearly tell who's following the system, who's learning the lines in the play, et cetera, and you can clearly tell who's not. And the results reflect that. Okay, enough said on that. Let's keep moving forward. Anybody have anything to say on their mind before we jump into the agenda?
Hank, I just want to say one last thing here. I think when I went through this material, Wealth Management Kit, there's a lot of ways you screw up on than you think. And I didn't realize that. I mean, you may think this is easy, like, you know, on the face of it, but when you get into this, there's a lot of nuances.
I think it's it's a great point, Jay. I mean, that's a great, I wish I would have said that, right? That's a great training lesson for all of us. You know, and screwing up is a good way to put it. There's just so many nuances, so many positioning, so many things. It's not rocket science, but if you're not aware of it, you could slip up and make that mistake. And like one, you know, a tiny mistake is a mistake. And remember, the CPA has full discretion. They got Jay lining up, and if Jay doesn't play out, there's another 99 standing right behind him.
Right. Yeah, like on page 9 it says, CPAs, they have little tolerance for sloppy work and careless mistakes. Amen. No, that just tells you that if you make a mistake, you don't get a second chance. You know, and like you said, there's a bunch of guys behind us, so you gotta do this right.
Yeah, and it's not intended to intimidate. It's not intended to scare. It's just the reality. We've been at it long enough. We know exactly what buttons to push with the CPA. We know exactly how they're thinking. We know exactly what they're looking for and what their characteristics are and their profiles are. And we're doing the best we can to establish those so that, you know, to put in your words, Jay, you don't screw up. Right. Because, again, on a relative basis, you only get one chance.
Right. I have one more question. I remember a long time ago you mentioned looking over the sheet on objections and
issues, exceptions, and roadblocks.
Right. I have mine here, but when do we go? When do we go back into that?
We're gonna take a shot at that today, actually.
Okay. All right. Okay.
No, good. That's just Jay. Those are good questions. It obviously tells me, and I know I'm not trying to put anybody else. It tells me you're looking at this stuff, and that's what we need to be doing here because you got to look at it and it's got to prompt some discussion. So very good. Okay. All right. Here's the agenda. Now, looking at it, and you're like, wow, you know, we got 2.5 hours. We've already taken up almost a half hour. You're like, wow, we can talk about just these little items here. Believe me when I say we're probably going to only address agenda item number 1, which is the whole session today. We're going to dive deeper into this area of prospecting and formalizing the relationship. I want to make sure it's clear to you the steps that you're going to go through, and then some of the pieces that you can use either with the CPA or for yourself as a training tool. So we're going to dive deeper and look at some things and make sure we spend some time so that everybody understands what it is, why we're doing it, and to a certain extent how to do it. And that's really where we're going to spend our time today. If time permits, which I doubt that it will, which is fine, we're going to pick it up on the next training session, is just some general things between Mike and myself, just things to think about. Maybe we have time to do some interactive exercises and maybe assign some more homework. But for today, we're going to spend a chunk of our time in CPA prospecting and formalizing the relationship. Because obviously that's the start, right? You've got to build your database, your target list. You have to have professionals to go talk to. And so how do you build that list? Where are the sources? And then throughout the process, what is that going to look like? Okay. So let's just go ahead and so that's really the goal today. Let's go get onto the website, and I like to just do this as you're watching, so you get more and more familiar. So you click on the turnkey system. we go into prospecting and formalizing the relationship, and we'll talk. I want to open it. You can see again here. Remember, here's all the pieces, and then in brackets you see there's 16 pieces, 14 pieces, etc., etc. So I just want to click on the CPA, the prospecting for CPAs, and you can see. But we're not going to go over all of these because I want you to spend some time clicking on them, looking at them, printing them out, writing notes on them. But there's a variety of things here in the turnkey system that will help you in the area of prospecting for CPAs and building your list. Okay, and this is not rocket science. You look at it and you say, that makes sense, that makes sense, I know how to do that. So a lot of these things, we don't need to incur time during class to go over them. I want to show you one piece in the prospecting area because once again, it's all about positioning and posturing and what it is you're trying to get across to the CPA. I want you guys to write. I want you to write these three. It's really one sentence, if you will, but there's three elements to it. Now, if somebody were to ask Mike and I, like, what is the key? I know we keep going down this exercise. There's 8 keys. There's this, that, and the other thing. But if we could articulate in one sentence, if you will, why Mike is hugely successful, why others are pretty successful, why others are not very successful. If I could pin down kind of a sentence or a statement based upon the last 17 years working with 1,000 advisors, I'm gonna reduce it down to the statement. It's got 3 elements to it. One, you've got to learn how to talk to the CPAs. How to understand the terminology, their jargon, where they've been, where they're at, where they're headed. As Mike also said, we don't want to kiss the pinky ring. I say you don't want to walk on eggshells. You've got to learn how to tactfully, professionally, and skillfully talk to CPAs. Okay, that's one piece of it. 2, you've got to be able to articulate the offer. What is CPA squared? What are you trying to accomplish? Why does a business relationship make so much sense? And we've got the training for it, we've got the terminology, but you've got to be able to articulate what the offer is. And then lastly is, once that's all laid out, then you have to deliver. You have to do what you say you're going to do. You've got to roll out per your instructions. You've got to be able to satisfy the clients. You've got to be able to deliver on the promise, if you will. So those are the 3 things. All this stuff, and there's a ton of stuff here. I could boil it down and say, 1, you got to learn how to talk to them. And each meeting, each CPA have different dynamics, different personalities. Everything will look different and unique. So your ability to be able to pivot, to shift, to be able to move around correctly is going to be of ultra importance. And again, just as a reference point, that's where Mike is unbelievable. He can assess the situation. He knows what's in the turnkey system because he's absorbed it. He knows his lines in the play, and he knows how to move around no matter what the circumstance is. A solo practitioner, a 3-partner firm, a very sophisticated firm, a down-to-earth firm, whatever. He can maneuver and manipulate, and that's where you want to get to, is your ability to talk to CPAs no matter where they're at in the process. Okay? So, again, learn how to talk to them, be able to clearly articulate the offer, and then you got to deliver. Because if you don't deliver, it all means nothing, because eventually you'll be fleshed out as to what really is taking place. Okay. Now, with that said, I want you to take a look at this one piece called Partnering with CPAs. I'm going to open that up. Make sure everybody can see that. And I want to take you through this exercise just so you understand. I mean, this is ultra important. Guys, here's what, you've got the back end, meaning the turnkey system, It's better than anything else out there. It's more comprehensive, it's more user-friendly, it's more detailed, it's step-by-step. The tools, the techniques, the strategies, there's nothing that equals that out in the marketplace. And that's important, that's one piece. But your ability to frame things correctly, to posture things correctly, to articulate the offer, that is really a big difference maker. So again, you may feel like, wow, we're not jumping into a lot of detail, but this is the detail that really is going to make a difference. Okay, so I'm just going to read this piece, partnering with CPAs, looking to build meaningful business relationships, strategic alliances with a select group of successful CPAs. The ultimate goal is to professionally collaborate the right way to protect your clients, to protect your practice, and strengthen your relationship. Okay? That right there is a mouthful. But look what's sitting inside that one paragraph. Okay? You're looking to build not just a referral network, you're looking to build meaningful business relationships, strategic alliances. Also, you're not looking for a CPA relationship on every street corner. You're looking for a select group of successful CPAs. That's who we're trying to partner with. And we're going to professionally collaborate the right way because there's all kinds of relationships floating out there, but we don't believe it's the right way. And so what you're offering from a CPA Squared standpoint is to professionally collaborate the right way. And then you can see the benefit of doing it the right way is to protect their clients, protect their practice because it is under fire, and then to strengthen their client relationships. That right there is really good phraseology, if you will, that you'll want to start to learn and intertwine in your conversations. Now, here's 5 bullet points, and we're going to go through them, and you're going to see there's a major theme here. I'm sure you guys can pick it up quite easily by looking at the blue highlights, but let's go through real quick. So who are you trying to partner with? Who are you looking for? You're looking for CPAs. So this is where when we go to prospects, you have an idea of who you're looking for, how to build your database, what kind of firms you want to work with. Okay, you want to work with CPAs that are open-minded, visionary, and now get this, and passionate about helping their clients make more informed decisions about their total financial life or their financial future. Okay, CPAs, number 2, CPAs that see value in taking a more proactive role in their client's overall financial affairs and being the client-desired financial quarterback. Number 3, CPAs that are aware of the major trend driven by client demand of more firms offering financial planning and wealth management services and who are genuinely interested in discussing how to best add and offer these value-added services. And we'll go back real quick, and I just want to read these real quick. So CPAs that recognize, the next bullet, CPAs that recognize that they are in the best position to help their underserved clients with comprehensive financial planning and independent wealth management and are willing to do something about it. And then lastly, CPAs that realize that delivering these expanded services for the benefit of their client on their own is a daunting task. Most CPAs don't have, remember this, the TESD, most CPAs don't have time, expertise, skill set, and the desire to properly execute. Therefore, they are open to hear and see what professional collaboration looks like the right way. Okay? So you can see here, I'm sure you've all picked it up, you notice that it's all about the client. Now, it's not the only factor, because positioning their firm for the future, diversifying their revenue, enhancing their bottom line, those are all very valid and key pieces. But this is all about client expectations, meeting and exceeding, helping them in these areas. Okay? So you can see the theme here. Now let's just go back and touch on just a few things and I'll be done with this document. Right? It's all about helping their clients, which is number 1, and then help them make more informed decisions about their financial future. What you would say is something like this. When we work together, the goal is that your clients are better off after our relationship than before. We're trying to plant some wording, some scripting in you as to how you articulate the offer. And the goal, of course, is to help your clients be better off after this relationship than before. Okay? Number two, CPAs, you got to find CPAs who see value in being more active. They're no longer the passive CPA, the recording of information, the bean counter, whatever you want to call them, but they are now kind of raising their flag and they're saying, you know what? There's been so much going on in 2008, 2009, 2010, so much going on now, a lot of uncertainty, et cetera, et cetera. You want CPAs who say, you know what? I want to take a more active role. I want to get more involved because the client sees me as that financial quarterback, not just the tax guy, not just the accounting guy, but more of the comprehensive financial quarterback. You're looking for CPAs who get that, who see that. Okay? Number three, then, is you're looking for CPAs that say, you know what, I do realize that the marketplace is changing. I do realize we're in the midst of a major trend. I do realize that in order for me to thrive, or survive first and thrive second, for me to thrive going forward, right, got to offer more services. Or I got to at least position my firm to offer more services. And that whole trend, if you will, it's not by Mike or the financial planning industry's desire, and it's not necessarily the desire of the CPA industry, it's the client. The client is wanting the CPA to be much more involved in helping them in a lot of different areas. They don't expect the CPA to be the expert and the all-knowing, but they do want them to kind of quarterback and kind of control everything and put the right team members in together, professionally collaborate the right way so that they can truly be taken care of. Four is a big one as well, is you can call the CPA out, in a tactful, professional, skillful way, and you can truly identify that many of their clients, if not all, in the area of financial planning, wealth management, they're underserved. Nobody's paying attention to them. They certainly aren't. They're doing the accounting and the tax work, and they just have no clue as to what's going on in the area of financial planning and wealth management. So they are grossly underserved, and so your offer is to help them serve the underserved. And then the last piece is it's a benefit. They got to believe it's a benefit to their client. If they don't believe it's a benefit to the client, you're done, right? They got to believe it's a benefit, that they'll be better off, that this collaboration makes sense, et cetera, but they also have to recognize that, you know what, these are my client expectations, these are what my clients want me to get involved in, but guess what, I don't have the time, expertise, skill set, and desire. And then in addition to that, they recognize that they don't have TESD and they want to do something about it because it'll benefit their client. So in a really odd way or a bold way or whatever you want to call it, sometimes you'll say, and again, don't kiss your pinky ring, don't walk on eggshells. Sometimes you'll say, look, let's be clear here. We're all going to benefit, but the main beneficiary is not you, and it's not me. The main beneficiary is your clients. When they hear that, and you're sincere about it, that's a difference maker. It's not about getting in there, figuring out how to develop business, and kind of rummaging through their client base. It's truly benefiting their clients. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. That's a piece in there. It's just really chock full of meaningful information, positioning, couching, because now when you're out in a meeting, a face-to-face meeting, or you're doing a group setting presentation or whatever, these are the things that should be rolling off your tongue. This is how I talk to them, this is how I articulate the offer, and then at some point in time you show them how you're going to deliver, which is stuff that we're going to cover in training throughout this process. Okay? Any questions on that? Anybody? Okay. I'm back at the website here, and you will go through this. Again, we'll backfill some of this, but I want to kind of highlight some key pieces here as we go through today's training. So you come through here, and there's lots of stuff. There's telephone scripts, there's referral letters, there's trade show, there's CPE seminars. There's a variety of things that you'll want to jump in, take a look at, make sure you understand as it relates to how do I prospect, where do I find, how do I approach, how do I get in front of, how do I build my database of CPAs. Just curious by, obviously I can't see any of you, but by a raise of hand, I'd be curious, how many of you have gone through this area, this section of prospecting, and taken a look at what's in here?
I have.
Perfect. Good. Again, it's not rocket science, but there's some really good stuff in here that you can leverage and use and help you in the process. Okay. Now, next week, training session, which I believe is Monday now, we're doing a Monday, Thursday next week, we're going to talk at great length about the actual prospecting process, where to find, how to go, how to get in front of. We'll be much more detailed, because obviously that's a big piece, right? And you may have relationships, but how do you fill your tank? How do you build your database? We're going to talk about very specific things on the next training session. But for today, I wanted to take you and kind of cover the whole process step by step in this area. Okay, so that's in the area of prospecting, the verbiage, the terminology, et cetera, et cetera. The next thing I want to cover then is the first meeting. So you can see I'm trying to take you through a track. So you've built this database, you've got CPAs that you can get in front of, some you have some relationships with, and you're able to set up a meeting. That's your number one priority, that's your number one goal, because that's where you talk to CPAs, that's where you articulate the offer, and that's when things can move forward. So let's go into the first meeting then. What do we need to be thinking about? What do we need to be doing in this first meeting? The first thing I want to just at least point out is there's scripting, there's first meeting scripting notes. So let's have a look at that. Don't need to spend a whole lot of detail here, but at least be aware of it, that it is there for you. Eventually you're going to use your own style, your own way of running that meeting, but if you can stay close to this, it's proven itself out for many, many years. So here's the first meeting scripting and notes to get the ball rolling. So thanks for taking the time to meet with me today. The purpose/goal of the meeting is for me to answer four key questions so that you can make an informed decision. Don't have to use this format. It's just helpful to get the ball rolling. So the four questions that eventually you're going to answer in this introductory exploratory meeting is who we are, what we do, how we do it, and why professionals decide to work with us, i.e. CPA Squared. More specifically, I want to take the next 45 minutes to have an open discussion and explore and see if a working relationship between our firm and my wealth management firm makes sense. Think about that. We're going to go over quite a bit of stuff and lots of detail, and it feels a little overwhelming, feels like a little burdensome at times, but at some point in time you just want to reduce it to simple yet powerful phrases. And really what you're doing here is let's have an introductory exploratory meeting so that we can see if a working relationship makes sense. So that's pretty simple. You don't have to get crazy about here's CPA Squared, here's what it sounds for, you're going to eventually get there, but what I have found is that advisors up front are a little bit gun-shy, they're not quite sure what to say, they don't want to mess up, but look, it can be very simple. Here's our organization, here's your organization. Let's think about locking arms, working together, creating a business relationship for the benefit of your clients. It can be very simple. Right? So you want to absorb this stuff, but don't get too crazy. You'll be able to go crazy as you get the ball rolling, and then you have a perfect opportunity to say what you want, when you want. But sometimes it's hard to kind of get the ball rolling. So bottom line, we just want to see if it makes sense for us to collaborate, to see if it makes sense for us to partner, to strategically align our firms, with the one primary goal of helping their clients make more informed decisions about their financial future. And we believe that collaboration is better for the client. Okay? So you can see there's more stuff here after working with CPAs and accountants. Our way of doing business has a 17-year track record that's proven practical and profitable. Our co-source model, we believe, is the future because it helps CPAs overcome TESD. We know, and then we make an assumptive here is, hey, we know there's one thing we do know for sure is that most CPAs, or rather most successful CPAs, they truly want to move into this business. But guess what? They don't know how to do it the right way, and that's where you come in. Right, so that's something, as you're having this meeting, that's something you would say is, look, we've been at it for a long time, right, you're leveraging us. We've been at it for a long time, and there is one thing we know for sure, and that's CPAs, they're moving, they're changing, they're evolving. They truly want to integrate wealth management, financial planning, wealth management into practice, but their biggest hesitation is they want to make sure they do it the right way. Well, this is our opportunity to show them what the right way is, how to truly collaborate the right way. And that's when you get the opportunity then to talk about CPA squared. So this will get the ball rolling in the scripting. Okay. The other major piece then in this area, and there's other pieces here, let's show you one more thing here, which is the issues, objections, and roadblocks. Okay? So this is what Jay was talking about. So let's take a look at what that is, because you want to look at it, and you want to study it, and you want to know this stuff relatively cold. Okay? Overcoming issues, objections, roadblocks, and roadblocks talking points. So let's look at this piece. As you meet with CPAs and introduce them to CPA squared, they will undoubtedly have issues, objections, and roadblocks. Your ability to appropriately address their concerns may be the difference between just another meeting versus winning over that relationship. This document is meant to help inform you and is not designed or approved to be a handout for CPAs. So here's the scenario. You're going to see we're going to cover these 5 key questions. You don't say, wow, that's a great question, and here you go. Here's this piece. Here's this document. Here's the answers. No, this is designed for you to be prepared, equipped, and ready for these 5 key issues, objections, and roadblocks. Okay? So let's take a look at what they are. Independence and objectivity. Okay, I'm concerned, so here's the CPA's concern. I'm concerned that if I begin offering wealth management services and receiving commissions and or fees, my clients will accuse me of selling out and will feel that I'm no longer independent and objective. Okay? The first thing you typically do in a response is you agree with them, you sympathize with them, you connect with them and say, yeah, you're right, that is a major issue. We realize that maintaining independence and objectivity, as we talked about last session, is the #1 priority for CPAs and accountants. Independence and objectivity. It's the cornerstone of the accounting industry. It's who they are. It's how they're built. So we recognize that. However, and then we just say this, look, we're not going to make the decision. Right? We're never going to make a decision for a CPA. They're going to come to their own conclusions. So ultimately, you will decide if adding wealth management services will comprise will compromise your independence and objectivity. The best thing that I can do is provide you with information to help you make an informed decision. That's it. You're the expert. You've got intellectual capital. You've got research. Here it is, and do what you need to do with it. And that's what the whole laundry list here is. The industry supports CPAs expanding into the wealth management services. So the different states that allow CPAs to receive commissions, the AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, right? They're continually behind it, supporting it, promoting it. Then you've got the State Board of Accountancy, the state societies. They're all moving in this area. So that's just one piece. This is their industry. State society, Board of Accountancy, AICPA, the rulemaking, the laws, they all are pointing towards the CPA moving in this direction, and it is okay. Obviously, it is fine for them to move, and it does not compromise their independence and objectivity. And so this is all information that is out there, that's in their industry. It's not us, right? And then B, the public, i.e. your clients. They're receptive and accepting. They want you to be involved in some form or fashion. And
can I ask you a question?
Yeah, fire away.
I see that you have here the last bullet point on B is ask yourself, survey your clients. Do we have a survey that they can use?
We do.
Oh, that's so cool.
We do, and we can kind of touch upon that. If not today, but maybe later. But if you go into the turnkey system, there is a survey. So let's talk about that for just a sec. So this is a beautiful way to kind of diffuse the situation. Because here's a scenario: you're going to be sitting down with a CPA, and they're going to say, yeah, maybe, no, kind of been thinking about it, independence and objectivity. They'll come up with a million excuses, right? But they're exploring it and they're thinking about it. And they typically would say, I'm not really sure if my client would like me to move in this direction. Right? That's very common. And you're going to hear that over and over again. Now, I've kind of kicked it off, but let's hear from one of you. If the CPA is kind of whining, complaining, putting up shields, I'm not really sure if my clients would like me to move down this path. What would you say? What would you say to that CPA in that meeting? Anybody?
Why don't you act on yourself?
Bingo. It's so simple, right? So they're going down this whole exercise, and then you just say, well, have you asked your clients? Have you sent out a questionnaire, a survey? Have you touched base with them to see if they'd like you to move in this direction? If they'd like you to be more involved? The look on their face is pretty perplexing. It's like, really? It's pretty simple. Because remember the theme here, and remember how a CPA is built. It's all about helping their clients and meeting or exceeding client expectations. So if, in fact, the client comes back and says, yes, Mr. CPA, we'd like you involved, what do you think they'll do? They'll probably get involved. So it's so simple when you're in there and just say, hey, well, why don't you just ask them? Well, I don't know how to ask them. Boom. We have a client survey. So you pull it. So you have that in your arsenal. But remember, this is my exact point: is if you didn't know it existed, you wouldn't be able to use it in that situation. That's why it's so important to know exactly what's inside the turnkey system and figure out when and why and where to use it. So that's the perfect opportunity when they say, I don't know if my clients will be involved. Well, why don't you ask them, and we have a tool for you to use. We call it our client survey. Think about that for a second. Just that little piece of why don't you ask your clients, and here's a tool for you to use. that already puts you miles ahead of everybody else. Granted, it's a minor piece. It's not rocket science, but you're going to see here as we pick apart the situation, as we bring out tools and strategies, the CPA mentally is continually putting check marks next to you versus anybody else out there. Well, nobody else did that. Nobody else thought about that. Again, it's not in the piece itself, not that impressive, but when you start building upon all the different components, that's going to make the difference. Okay, and you can go into you'll find the survey in the turnkey system, but it basically says this: hey, we're exploring, we're thinking about providing more expanded services, we're thinking about aligning with a financial services organization, we're thinking about being more proactive in these areas: financial planning, insurance strategies, wealth management, whatever. How do you feel? What do you think? Well, here's a visual that we usually, when you're in that meeting, there's a visual. When you send that survey out, most of your clients, not all, but most of them will raise their hands and say, it's about time. You've been our trusted advisor for 20 plus years. You know our situation better than anybody. We would love for you to become more proactive. And honestly, that's good for you because we know the dynamic, right? Even though they're proactive, even though they want to take an active role, we already know the dynamic that they face. They don't have the time, expertise, skill set, and desire. That's where we come in. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
But it's your ability to kind of move things along and get them to see things that they're not able to see themselves. Which brings me back to that same point. You've got to be able to see it. You've got to be able to know it to be able to move that meeting and move that CPA in your direction. And if you believe this in your heart, the beauty of it is it makes sense. It's professional collaboration the right way, and their clients are better off after this relationship than before. And if that's your answer, Mike, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I just want to add a couple things, if I may.
Of course.
The ability for you as the advisor to master these issues, objections, and roadblocks, so when they're presented to you, you're able to not demonstrate nervousness, anxiety, just disconcern with your inability to answer the questions, but your ability to just seamlessly segue in to the appropriate response that they're looking for, even if it really doesn't answer what their issue is. What it will do is it will demonstrate to that CPA that you are not just, Joe Schmo advisor walking in the door, but you are truly an advisor who is an industry expert in relation to integrating wealth management services into CPA firms. So it's your ability to look at your body language, think about it in advance, take a deep breath, lean back, don't exhibit the nervousness that a lot of younger advisors do, that they're not even realizing they're doing, but you are essentially walking in there with all the answers to the test before you're given the test, and that's a great feeling. Because they will ask you in almost 100% certainty all of these issues, objections, and roadblocks, or some of them. And it's really your ability to just calmly and professionally, without hesitation or concern, slip right into the answer. And then later on in the training, we're going to provide you with some information with respect to dealing with the analytical mind. Remember, there's 4 personality types: the driver, the analytic, the amiable, and the, there's one more, I don't remember what it is. There's 4 types of people out there. They are clearly analytical, and there's a way to essentially position yourself as an analytical person or know how to deal with the analytical mind. I mean, guys like Jim Booth, guys like myself who have been doing this for 30 years, we instinctively do that. But some of the younger advisors with not as much tenure in the business, you really need to, take a deep breath and learn how to operate with the different styles and personality types. It's expressive. That's the fourth one. So there are ways for you to use this information, and this is where we're kind of giving you the 30,000-mile viewpoint here. And as time moves on, we're going to tighten up on the training and pick it up a lot. But this is good stuff. I would print this document. I would take this. I'd role play with it. I'd read it. I'd take it everywhere I go. I still carry it around in my car. So if I arrive at a meeting 15 minutes early, which I have a tendency to do, I review my whole presentation just so it's fresh in my mind, and I've done it over 100 times. So, with that said, I just thought I'd add that little point.
No, it's a big point, for sure. Okay, just moving right down the line, so then, C addresses key items for maintaining independence and objectivity. So, talk about a full range of products and services. The fact that you have so this is the way you do business. Remember we talked about that before, is there a planning approach, a planning focus rather than product peddling? And is there flexible revenue options for whether it be commission, fee-based planning, assets under management? Do you have that full flexibility? And if that is the case, that's how you can contribute to helping them maintain their independence and objectivity. Be able to do whatever makes sense, whatever appropriate for the client. If you're in that environment, then that's how they can help maintain independence and objectivity. If they're potentially doing work with another organization that's very heavily proprietary or very one-dimensional, then that may not be a great way for them to maintain their independence and objectivity.
I have a question.
Far away.
Okay. Currently, I have an arrangement with a PNC office in another city, and the way we work that, with the approval of Invest, of course, is that for the insurance products they're licensed for, I just split commission with them. But for the securities that I write that they're not licensed for, we have an agreed upon rent that I pay for my gas. Is that a type of thing that would be one of those flexible revenue options with the CPA office?
Mike, you want to take that one?
Talk to clients about that.
Yeah, you have to be very, very careful with respect to those loosely managed relationships. Preferably, the CPA should get licensed. You can certainly go into a CPA's office and rent space from them, but it can't be on a variable compensation basis. In other words, it has to be legitimate. There has to be a written agreement, and the rents can't change month to month based on your production. It has to be reasonable. Reasonable for the space that you're essentially acquiring, and then you have to make sure you register that location as a branch.
Right.
And if they have another broker-dealer relationship going on in that same branch, you're probably not going to be able to do it.
Right.
So I would suggest that you offer to do some of that, if they have open space. But it's not really the best way to do it. And if it truly is the only way you can do it, well, you need to get a hold of Gabe ILO and all the powers to be at Invest and make sure that they understand that it's not a way for you to shift fees into the pockets of the CPA with trickery and unethical compensation arrangements.
I had to go through with the PNC office, and yes, I mean, it was not an easy thing to get done. It took us a long time to get it approved, but okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing on that is, just be clear, whenever you're doing some kind of rental lease program, maybe a billing arrangement, there's nowhere to be found that that's revenue sharing. It's cost reimbursements, expense overhead reimbursement, billing, charge for the time. It has nothing to do with clients, product placement, and revenue sharing, because you can only revenue share if you're appropriately licensed and registered.
Okay.
So I find that advisors to kind of mix that up. They say, hey, can we share in revenue via a rental agreement? Now, we all know what that means, but no, the answer is no. There is no revenue sharing if they're not licensed, but there is the cost reimbursement, et cetera, et cetera. Just be clear on your terminology as well. Okay, so that was issue number one. So number two then is ethics and conflict of interest. I'm concerned that offering wealth management services and receiving commissions and fees may be unethical and a conflict of interest. So here's your response. If we felt it was unethical for CPAs to offer wealth management services, we would not pursue, should not be a pursuer of pursue the alliance. Ultimately, you decided that, so you kind of go down that same page. We're going to provide you with this information for you to think about. Because bottom line is, you never, ever sell a CPA. You educate them, you inform them, you provide them with enough information, and they will make a decision. So once again, we talk about the AICPA. They have determined that it's not a conflict of interest, and there's all kinds of rules and regs and all kinds of stuff out there that they can read and do homework on. This one's a big one. You want to maybe, memorize or commit to memorization, which is item B. I want you to think about this for a second. So they talk about ethics, conflict of interest, I'm going to sell something, I'm going to get paid. They're kind of wishy-washy on that. Well, if it's appropriate, you say ethics are not determined by the products and services that one offers, nor are they determined by the way a professional is paid. Ethics are determined by the character of the individual. In our opinion, if a CPA is objective and ethical before adding wealth management services, he or she will continue to be so thereafter. It's just something that you can insert. Because you know what? There's ethical doctors, non-ethical doctors. CPAs, attorneys, you name it. It's just they either have character or they don't. Something for them to think about. Okay, also, the AICPA, which is the American Institute of CPAs, of Certified Public Accountants, the Code of Professional Conduct, continues to govern CPAs' business and activities. So in their Code of Professional Conduct, it clearly states that, they can move in this area, and it's not compromising their independence and objectivity, and it's not unethical, and it's not a conflict of interest. So their organization, their biggest association, as well as the state boards, the state board of accountancy, state societies, they're all very much in this camp, if you will. Again, as Mike was saying, you got to, and he still has it in his car. You got to study this stuff because if not all five of them, the majority of these issues will come up in your meeting. Okay, number 3, don't have time to get licensed. I'm just so busy, I really don't have time to get licensed. You will hear that over and over again. This is a very common and legitimate concern for most successful CPAs. Let's keep licensing in perspective, meaning it's only necessary if you would like to receive commissions and fees. So let me just mention a couple key points. So a small investment up front will pay big long-term dividends for you and your clients. So obviously we know the impact we'll make on the clients, but also, we talked about this before, they could add some significant revenue to their bottom line. And so that small upfront time, and Mike, you can talk to them, how you talk to the CPA about the Series 65, how long it takes, It's a small investment. Yeah, there's some work, and yeah, they got to take some time out, but once you get that established, then long term, it makes a lot of sense. So you just got to frame it correctly to see if that's a good cost benefit for them. Mike, so why don't you maybe just talk about how you bridge the subject matter, how long it takes, what license to get, and just, give them a feel for how you talk to them.
Sure. In the turnkey system, as part of the marketing plan, there's essentially an outline, a timeline, for lack of a better analogy. It talks about the initial planning, the licensing, all the various phases that are required for the actual integration of a true wealth management division into a CPA firm. And what I do, once they essentially sign on the bottom line that they're coming on board, we go through our program where, as an invest advisor, you're going to be required to do a background check on them and also have them file outside business activity paperwork. At the same time, I express to them the information regarding the Series 65, and I go out and order them books myself and have the books directly shipped right to their office or home, depending upon their preference. And then I explain to them like this. I says, guys or gals, this is a 3-hour, 130-question exam that requires you to achieve a 72 or better to pass. It's not comprehensive like the Series 7 exam. It's much easier. It's more memorization than it is utilizing formulas, etc. And it's pretty straightforward. And then I go ahead and I get them the books. And what I'm finding is I'm actually giving consideration to hiring a teacher who can run a Series 65 class for these guys, once a week or every week, 8 hours on a weekend or something, because, as you age, it becomes less and less of interest to hit the books, or on a weekend. But if you have a class to go to, you can go and do it that way. That might be a better alternative as well. So, we haven't had a lot of difficulty doing this, but I am starting to see a little bit of a trend where they'll sign up for their test, and all of a sudden they want to, take the test date and move it out a little bit more. So, but it's not that comprehensive. It's not that complicated. It's actually pretty easy for them to get this thing done.
Yeah, and obviously they do quite well as CPAs. They're pretty good at taking tests and they're book smarts, and again, you just kind of tell them like it is. It's like it's worth it, right? I mean, the ultimate benefit is their clients. You're getting more active. You're generating revenue. It's not that difficult, between us. Just suck it up and just go do it, because it'll have a big impact. Also, remember the issue here that we've been talking about is don't have the time to get licensed. Well, the fact that you don't have the time is exactly why they should consider the strategic alliance. Remember, the most important consideration is taking good care of your clients. Figuring out how to deliver these value-added services to your clients is top priority. Now, on a relative basis, whether or not you get paid should not be the deciding factor. It's not. Remember, first and foremost, is to help your clients make more informed decisions, make sure that the clients are better off after this relationship than before. And you just say that over and over again, and then you start addressing all these other things. If the CPA does not want to get licensed, and it really is a license, a solicitor agreement is really where we're headed, right? Just understand on a relative basis, back in the day, CPAs, they would go get their Series 7, 65, life and health. I mean, they would do everything. They would get licensed. The trend certainly is more of the referral rep / solicitor's agreement that Mike will tell you that Invest has got a very sweet agreement and set up. But basically, they're coming in, taking their Series 65 and calling it a day for a while. Now, if they want to get insurance license and Series 7 and some of that other stuff, that's usually down the road. You want to keep the barrier of entry as low as possible. You want to get them up and running, feeling good about things, getting successful, putting money in their pockets, taking care of their clients. This day and age, it's just boom. Get their Series 5, Series 65, and move on down the road.
Hank, this is Jay Roller again. Real quick. I guess in Florida they don't need to take the Series 65. Would they then do a solicitor's agreement in is that what we would do, or?
Yeah, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's 10 states that don't require the CPA, that's really pretty sweet. Got a huge advantage in those 10 states.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
And then, which we kind of talked about a little bit there, this billing arrangement, this cost sharing, this expense overhead reimbursement, the rental, lease. Those are things you can consider. They're kind of one-off. They're legal. They're appropriate as long as you're really careful about the terminology, about what it is you're saying, how you're setting things up. And that's where Mike would say, just make sure whatever you're doing, it's not revenue sharing and you get everything approved by Invest. But there is a way that could take place. And there's a document in the turnkey system called Compensation and Alternative Cost Sharing. So you want to refer to that. Most likely you won't use that very often, if any, but it would be good, again, in the back pocket, knowing that is an alternative, something to discuss. And just the fact that you could discuss solicitor's agreement, how that works, why that works, what the trend is. You could discuss this alternative cost-sharing approach, what it is, what it isn't. You could talk about full-blown licensing. The fact that you can talk about all that stuff puts you in a good position.
Hank?
Yes.
This is Jim Oak.
Hi, Jim.
I had a question on that. If you, does the CPA2 compliance obligation, keeping everything up to snuff, cover an alternative arrangement?
Say that again?
Does your program, which basically promises that the design and delivery and procedures keep both the advisor and the accountant in compliance with their respective industries, does it cover when they go into an alternative billing arrangement, like, let's say, renting space?
I'm not sure.
It's covered under CPA2's contract. That's, I guess,
CPA squared, yes. So there is no CPA squared contract, right? There's Invest. There's 65, the solicitor agreement. So if they get licensed, that covers that. If they do a billing arrangement, that's just kind of floating out there. There's really no kind of rules and regs. Obviously, Invest has got to approve it and at least look at it. But there are general billing arrangements that are out there everywhere. And CPAs are very familiar with, hey, I can bill you for my time, I can bill you for my space, I can get expense overhead. That's a very standard process that they go through. So that's not really a regulated piece.
Yes, you're halfway answering my question. Basically, if the accountant that's been approached decides that's the only way that I want to receive comp, they would not necessarily then need to set up a referral contract. That's correct. Okay. Yes, so that leads me back again. If they don't set up a referral contract, they are really not under the CPA2 program. They're just doing what a lot of them do now, which is not the preferred way. I'm not in favor of that. But I'm just trying to ascertain that if you have an accountant that does not want to do anything more than rent their space, that's kind of out of the mold of what you're trying to promote here.
That's correct. That's why it's an alternative. But when you say if it's not under CPA squared, just think about CPA squared is the implementation, execution, moving the needle, getting in front of clients. That's really the essence of CPA squared. The licensing piece is such a minor portion. That's just whether or not they want to get paid. So CPA squared still fully moves forward, but they don't revenue share. They just bill for their time.
Okay. Maybe this is something I need to have an offline discussion with you.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next question. We'll move along here, and then we'll take a break in about 10 minutes. We're at a pretty good breaking point. Okay, what my clients will think, right? We kind of went down this process, or this exercise already, but I'm concerned about what my clients will think about our firm adding wealth management services and receiving commissions and fees. Based upon real-life encounters, this should be updated to the last 17 years, industry surveys, marketplace research. I can guess that your clients may think, I can guess what your clients may think about this possibility. So if clients are given the choice among several other financial professionals, i.e. investment brokers, insurance agents, wealth managers, et cetera, they choose the CPA. In other words, if they have a choice to implement, execute, et cetera, they pick you, Mr. CPA. Again, they don't expect you to have the full-blown expertise, skill set to be able to deliver, but they want you to be more involved. And so, ask your clients, right? That's the survey. That's the fourth bullet point. And just being out there for so long. Now, one of the things, which it doesn't show here, but one of the things I want you to understand is this survey called the 90-10 survey. Now, it'll show up on the recording, so you can go back in and listen in. You might want to take some notes here, but this is a key piece that you can use, marketplace, intellectual capital, if you will, to illustrate and drive home a point in this area. What will my clients think? Do my clients want me involved? Just think about this and interject this as you see fit and appropriate. It's called the 90-10 survey. So it's very simple. They went out, the survey went out to high net worth individuals and business owners. And they posed one question. If they have a choice, what financial professional would they prefer to run their financial planning, wealth management solutions through? Overwhelmingly, that's the 90 part, or 90% of them said, of all the professionals out there, it's the CPA that we'd like to do business with and run financial planning and wealth management through. On the flip side, then, is the 10. So it's the 90-10%, if you will. Only 10% of all financial planning and wealth management solutions, services, are actually running through the CPA industry. So, I'd be curious, what does that tell you? When you hear that 90-10 survey, and you're talking to the CPA, because they're going to say, wow, that's pretty amazing, and then you'll want to follow it up with some of the stuff that we're going to say here in a second. But when you heard that survey, what does that mean to you? What thoughts are being provoked? Tell me about, just talk about the 90-10 survey. Anybody? Just what is it?
Well, I was going to say, I've gone back to page 21 in the wealth management kit. It's right there.
Yes, it's there. Once again, you read it. But what do you, when you hear that, what should you be thinking about as far as kind of sending a message to the CPA? So it's one thing to talk about the survey, and it really drives home the point that, hey, your clients really want you. But to add some more flavor, some more color to that 90% survey, 90-10 survey, this is what we want you to do, is we want you to articulate the survey, and then we want you to follow up and say a few things. What would you say to drive home the point even more? Does anything come to anybody's mind about the 90-10 survey? All right, I'll help you guys out here. So for starters, so this is role playing, right? So we're with the CPA. So for starters, the survey says to us, and hopefully it does to you as well, is that there's an enormous opportunity for you to get more involved. to be more proactive, to position your practice to deliver these services. Because 9 out of 10 of your clients that are walking through that door have clearly articulated they want you involved. So the opportunity is enormous if you want to take that on. And it's not me, and it's not the industry, and it's not you and your industry, it's your clients and their desire for you to get more proactively involved. What better confirmation do they need and want? So I'm kind of adding to it because I wanted them to see I want them to understand the picture. Okay? So lots of opportunity.
Hank, I'm sorry, this is Jay. I'm a little confused. I sort of wrote down, we would go to the CPA as part of the whole thing and ask him if we could survey your clients to see if they want to help, making more informed decisions regarding the wealth management. You're saying, I guess I had to step away for a while. So is this piece sort of back up?
Yes.
What the public, it's sort of okay. So
this is a survey that just kind of, so one of the ways to see,
do they believe this survey, or do they think we just kind of choose the numbers to meet our own purpose here?
No, this is a real survey.
Okay, all right.
Okay. And so this is just more information. This is more collaborative material, if you will, to drive home the point of, hey, your client, even though, you're worried about what your clients think, well, one, you can just go ask them, and we have a survey for you to do that. Or two, check out this 90-10 survey that's been recorded. This is what it says. They either believe that or they don't. Right, okay. But it's a different approach and more confirmation that if you here's two things. One, if you even know about the survey, which most advisors don't, that check mark again for you. Right, because remember, there's another 99 J's waiting to go into the CPA's office. And so what you need to do is get charts next to you, and you need to be in the marketplace. You need to be differentiated, separated. You need to stand alone. And all the stuff that we're looking at and talking about and positioning, that all this stuff is going to separate you and differentiate you and help you win over that relationship. Okay. Okay, so that 9-10. Go ahead.
Hank, does the date of that survey ever get thrown back at you?
It never does. It's an older survey, and there's so much, more stuff that comes out each and every year. I mean, you can look at Financial Magazine, Registered Rep, Financial Planning Magazine, the CPA journals, and pretty much up through current, there is stuff. They're talking about the pros and cons. They're talking about CPAs moving in this direction. There's just so much stuff out there, but this is such a nice survey. It's very simple to understand. It's compact, and it still has relevancy here because not a lot of CPAs since that survey has aggressively moved into this business. So the opportunity.
What I was specifically thinking of was the fact that we had 2008, occur. Since that time, has there been any kind of a follow-up we could find anywhere that would, reaffirm that?
I haven't seen. The study was done by CEG Worldwide, which is a monster consulting advice. You know who CEG is?
Yeah.
Yes. John Bowen and his group. They have not had a follow-up survey on the 90-10. That whole concept of just one question out there.
Okay, just curious.
Yep.
Okay, I guess it's Jay again. This question is for Mike. Has Mike been asked or had to do a survey from any of his CPA clients to just sort of show them that there is really demand for the CPA client base, or has that come to task?
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, I have a CPA in a very affluent area of Simsbury, Connecticut. Asked for a survey amongst his clients. We sent out 100 surveys, and I think 60 people sent them back, and overwhelmingly the answer was essentially, why have you waited so long?
That's wonderful news. That's awesome.
Yeah. Why? And this guy's like in his 70s. He's an older guy, But the point is, why have you waited so long? Let's get going. I want to start immediately.
Wow. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
But, and you know, just, I know we're bouncing back and forth between the 90-10 and then the client survey, but by just offering that stuff, if you get, that way you can remove yourself, because obviously, you know, selling's not the right word, but you're a little bit biased, you're kind of selling yourself, selling the alliance, but if the client comes back and confirms what we're saying, that bodes well for us. And then it also propels the CPA to say, wow, my clients really do want me involved.
There's a demand.
There's a demand. Now, of course, if the surveys come back and they're like, no, we don't want you involved, well, that helps you make a decision too. But remember, you don't just walk away from that relationship. That just means the client doesn't want the CPA to be that involved. Right? It still means you can have a strategic alliance, but you're going to be more of the primary, maybe they don't want them to get paid. Remember, there's always something to do with the CPA. So all I'm saying is that if it comes back, it could tell you what direction and how the strategic alliance will unfold. If they come back and say, yeah, we want you involved, yeah, we have no problem paying you, then it's the full-blown co-sourcing. But they say, you know what, yeah, I'd like you to be involved somewhat, but we'd like to leave that, you know, financial planning and wealth management to the experts, and we don't feel comfortable paying for you, that's fine too. I mean, you can still work together because the ultimate goal is to help your clients. But what you'll find is you're going to get confirmation. Not all clients are going to be comfortable with it, and you tell the CPA this. Which again, when you tell the CPA, here's what you can expect, here's what you're going to get, most will say yes, some will say no. Well, that right there is just telling them that you've got experience. Instead of, hey, send a survey out and let's see what you get. Not really sure what the results are going to be, then they're going to, subliminally, they're going to say, wow, you know, Jay really hasn't done this. But if you beat them to the punch and you say, look, on average, what you're going to find is we're going to send these out, X are going to respond, some are not going to respond, some are going to be, most are going to be interested. Where have you been? You're our most trusted advisor. If you can frame that up front, then it just, again, confirms that you know what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Hank. Thank you.
Okay, now back to, I want to finish up. So the 90-10 survey, so one, it's a tremendous opportunity, but two, what if, obviously there's a major disconnect here. What's the major disconnect here to the survey? And now I'm on the other side, I'm at the 10%. What do you tell, this tells the CPA something very, very important. Think about this, Mr. CPA. 9 out of 10 of your clients who walk through this door want you more involved. However, as a whole, you're only delivering 1 out of 10. That's pretty mind-boggling when you think about that. There's obviously there's a disconnect between what your clients want and what is actually being delivered. And then you just walk right into that and say, well, that's what CPA Squared, that's what our alliance is all about. That's the offer that we're making, is we're helping you make the connection. We're helping you deliver on what your clients are looking for. And more clients are, in fact, looking for their CPA to be a little more involved.
It's a differentiator.
It is. It is. So you see, just spending 5 minutes. Now, we spend a little bit more time, but if you just spend 5 minutes articulating the survey, trying to illustrate some points, where the disconnect is, what our offer is, that's what we're talking about when we say learn how to talk to CPAs and learn how to articulate the offer. And then at some point in time, you got to show them how we're going to deliver. And that's, you know, marketing plan, financial planning day, lobby checklist, all this stuff on once we do decide to work together, here's how we're going to bring it alive, Here's how we're going to move the needle. Here's how we're going to help your clients. Now, when you're prospecting, because that's the area we're in, when you're prospecting, you've got to be able to tell them how this relationship is going to work, what it's going to look like, what the expectations are, what we're going to do at this stage and that stage, and how we're going to approach the clients, and how we're going to create a marketing plan, and how we're going to utilize lobby checklists. So in order to do that in the prospecting stage, you got to know what marketing and business development. You got to know what financial services integration. You got to know this stuff. That's why when we talked about when somebody asked the question, when can we be turned loose? Well, you can go turn loose now if you want, but we just think you need more of this kind of training, absorbing, couching, posturing, figuring out what pieces are available, how and when to use it, because you're going to get one shot, and the more you know about what CPA Squared really is and what it has to offer and how you position it, that's your best foot forward. That's why we're saying, hey, can you wait 3 or 4 or 5 and possibly all 8 training sessions? Because when you're done at the 8th spot, and there's still continuing education and support, and you want to keep moving along, but you're going to get more and more comfortable when you get to the 6th training and the 7th training and the 8th training. Now your confidence level, your swagger is a lot different than it was in day 1. And that's why we're trying to hold you back, rein you in for a little bit, because all these little things will actually pile up to be some big things. Okay, last one, and then we'll take a quick break here. Last one is disturbing referral sources. So I'm concerned that if I become licensed and develop an affiliation with your organization, I will lose my referral sources. Therefore, I'm concerned about the financial impact that will have on my business. And notice the response again. Okay? Most CPAs who we have come across bring up this issue. So just that statement, now we're deep thinkers, a lot of deep thinkers than the average person out there, but just making that statement tells the CPA you got experience, which is a big deal. We've been doing this, okay? And then it's certainly a valid concern. So once again, we would agree with them. We know it's on their mind. And so here's some things for you to think about, and ultimately you'll determine, does it make sense or not? Right? Do a cost-benefit analysis. And we have found that CPAs, when they do this analysis, the benefits far outweigh the cost. And in fact, the incremental revenue generated from wealth management services far exceed, and says may exceed, the income loss from referrals. Okay, and then also this little tidbit here, as an independent objective professional, they are the ultimate, you have full flexibility to continue the relationship as you see fit. Doing what's right for the client is always top priority. So there you go, right? This is the document. Again, Mike is ultra successful, and he still has this document sitting in his car. So that should tell you how important this document is. You want to know this stuff inside and out. You want to be able to pivot and move around as you see fit. This stuff should be rolling off your tongue. Now, it may not be word for word. If it was, that's even better. But you got to get the gist of it, the essence of it, and be able to address that properly. Because, and again, this is, our style. It's just we're extremists, and we just want to illustrate a point. If you cannot appropriately address these issues, objections and roadblocks, it's not intended to scare or intimidate. They're just going to extend their hand and say, thanks, have a nice day. And they're going to say, next. And again, you guys, we're extremists, and I'm just trying to illustrate a point, but you got to be ready. Right? You got to be ready and equipped. And when you are, you will be like no other player out there. You start taking these pieces, the brochure, the PowerPoint presentation, the issues, objections, the scripting, on and on and on. There's no match for you out there. At least from an advisory standpoint. There's nobody doing this stuff quite like this. Okay? So So why don't we go ahead and take a break? We're an hour and a half into it. Let's take about a, 5-7 minute break, and then we'll jump in for the last 45 minutes and continue down the agenda. So take a break, and we'll see you guys in just a bit. Okay, why don't we go ahead and jump back in, everybody. Let's do a quick roll call to make sure everyone's back. Al's here. I'm Al. John's here. John. Charlie's here. Charlie. Charlie's here. Jay. Mike. James, Jim, did you leave us? James Booth? Alright. I noticed he's off online, so. Charlie, you're there, right? Charlie, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, okay, good. Thanks, Charlie. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up the 45 minutes. Hopefully you guys are hanging in there. Bear with us. We're just about there. On the next agenda item, let's talk a little bit about the first meeting, introductory meeting with the CPA. I'm going to show you. And guys, you're going to discover this, even though you're like, 20 hours seems like a lot of training. It is, but believe me, we're not actually going to be able to cover everything. We're going to be able to cover a lot of stuff, but it still needs you still need to get in there yourself, look around, and look at stuff more closely, in addition to the training we're doing. There's so many moving pieces, not rocket science, but so many moving pieces, so many cool things that you can help you, that we're going to do our best over this 20-hour period to go as deep as we can. Sometimes we won't be able to go as deep as we'd like, and so I'm just encouraging, again, as that homework continual assignment is to keep looking at stuff so we can expose you to it, and then you can expand your knowledge base on it. Okay, so let's take a look here. Now, we're at this first meeting, introductory. So the logic here is you've done some prospecting, you've done referrals, you've built a list, on and on and on, all the stuff that we're going to talk about a little bit in greater detail next week, or Monday. You've got the framing, you've got the couching, you've got the positioning. Now you're able to set up a meeting. But what do you do in that meeting? You saw the first meeting scripting. We've already looked at that. But the key piece for this meeting is what we call CPA introductory presentation, which is your opportunity to run the meeting. So it's about 30 slides long, and you can see here, I'll put it on this mode here. So it's 31 slides, and it's all scripted, and of course it's all compliance approved with some some minor tweaking as far as disclosures for you that's specific to you and your organization, but you get the essence of it here. So this is how you'll run the meeting. This is the topics that you want to discuss. And therefore, you're not just walking in there with a yellow pad and a business card. You may eventually get there, but this is for you a track to run on. So make sure you're on task, if you will. And this is something you'll want to go through over and over, slide by slide, scripting, and take a look at the notes. This is how, in essence, the first meeting should be run. Okay? So, keeping you strategically positioned in an ever-changing marketplace. This is the CPA squared offer, right? First you do some disclosures. Thank you very much, Invest. And then this is what you're going to talk about. The evolution from accountants to wealth planners, what your clients are looking for, why enter into the wealth management industry, methods of integrating wealth management services, who we are, what we do, how we do it, why CPAs use our system, and the next steps. Now, Mike will quickly tell you, once he understood how to talk to CPAs, how to navigate in all kinds of meetings, what points you need to get across, and what the goal of that meeting is. You know, I can't say for sure, but I would guess, and Mike can chime in, I highly doubt that he uses this presentation anymore.
I do use it, Hank. I bring it with me because I want them to see everything. And one of the mistakes that a lot of advisors make sometimes, it's like when you're a professional baseball player. You know, you think you remember how to bunt and how to run the bases. Well, every year, professional baseball players go back to spring training for a reason. And I use that analogy with respect to my presentation. I have it down pat, but I still flip through the PowerPoint presentation just because I'm assuming that I know it, but that doesn't mean that they know it. So, believe it or not, I really do take my time and go through this thing. Not verbatim, because depending upon their understanding of how the meeting's moving, I'll move quickly through it, or I'll spend more time depending upon if it's getting it or not. So.
And Mike, do you use a printed version in a binder?
I do.
Yeah, instead of a PowerPoint on a laptop.
I do. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, perfect.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. J, I'm sorry to jump in. I have this thing. I pulled this out. It seemed like maybe a month ago, but I thought this was something you do for like a luncheon meeting or something. So, Mike, you bring this with you into the CPA's office, and then just
I have it.
And just go through it.
Yeah, I have it bounded at Staples.
Okay.
Specially bounded, and I have it in my hand, and as I'm doing the introductory scripting notes, I start moving through the presentation diligently, and you'll figure it out as you get more and more skilled with it. And when I first started, Jay, I would give the CPA one, the hold in his hand, and I held mine in my hand, but what the CPA didn't realize is my scripting notes are on the bottom of each page. So as I kind of went through and I glanced down at the scripting notes, so I could then ad-lib and have all the words and all the lines in the play presented, and then obviously the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, it becomes memorized. So I usually have one without scripting notes and one with, you have the one with.
Okay, you have your one copy. You just use your one copy and use it. That's it. Yeah. And then you go and have the bound ones done for you, and then you have the. All right, let me ask you one quick question. This is probably dumb. Were you like reading the scripting notes before you utilized before you got in your first presentation, right?
Well, I mean, I spent hours memorizing this thing.
Okay.
You know,
I mean, I thought this was like you did on like a lunch and learn or something like that. Because I was going to ask you about the facility.
You can use them too.
Okay.
All right, and you do the same thing. It's just up on the projector.
Now, what meeting did you? Is this your initial meeting?
Yeah.
You bring this
in
in?
the initial meeting, yes.
Cool. All right. Okay.
Right. Look at the title, the file title. It's the CPA introductory meeting.
Okay.
Exploratory meeting. This is the first meeting with them.
Okay. I'm sorry. I won't ask you one question.
No. Those are totally fine. Just remember, so you've got this initial exploratory meeting. Instead of just walking in there and winging it, you've got this PowerPoint presentation that you can go through in a variety of different ways. Mike does it with printed. Each person has a copy of it. You could put it up on a projector on your laptop. All right. So there's just a couple different ways that you could do it.
I love it.
Right? But it just gives you a track to run on, because most advisors, even though they're skilled business people, type A, they're very professional at what they do, relatively speaking, don't have a clue on how to run that first meeting.
This is great.
And here it is, that you don't have to worry about it. Here's logically how you move through. These are the hot buttons. This is how you address things with one major goal or purpose of the meeting. Obviously, you got a couple minor, goals and objectives. But the primary goal is to determine, okay, are we connecting here? Does the firm seem like it's a good fit for us? And your ultimate goal is just get a second meeting where you can profile the CPA. That's it.
Wow.
Okay? But it's all laid out. And again, everybody, right? You got 30 years experience, you got 10 years experience, you got 20, whatever. It's different. It's unique. You've got to be able to run that meeting appropriately because that's going to be your first impression with them, and they're going to make an assessment whether, hey, this is just a waste of time and there's no relationship here, or let me find out more, let's move forward, let me do the practice profile, this is sounding pretty good, this is your best shot. And just because you've been in the business for a while, it's not good enough. Even though you're smooth and skilled and credentialed, not good enough. You've got to be able to hit the hot button, the hot spot, and keep their interest early and move them forward. And this is a piece, among other things, the scripting, issues, objections, and roadblocks, the brochure, which we haven't even looked at yet. These are all things that's going to contribute and enhance that first experience you're going to have with them. And if you can set it up correctly and establish yourself, position, posturing, couching, all that up front, then you've got something potential going forward. But if you mess it up in that first college, it's like, this guy's not too professional, doesn't really know what he's doing, doesn't have the lines in the play, kind of wishy-washy, doesn't have a track record. And again, I'm just trying to illustrate points is you really got to put your best foot forward, and your best foot forward is not just because you've been in the business for a while. It's a whole different game. Whole different game. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about. And again, I want you to spend some time looking through this, just as Mike said, spend hours and hours, slide by slide, line by line, scripting, everything. Go through it. It's pretty easy to follow, and you're going to get it. But if you don't, ask us. Let's bring it up in training. You know, I wasn't quite sure about this slide and the positioning here. So just go through it and go through it and go through it, and then pepper us with questions or issues or whatever's on your mind on these slides. Okay, so we talk about the evolution from accountants to wealth planners, 3 different stages. And again, it's scripted, right? And the whole movement is this expansion beyond their traditional services, tax, accounting, and the attest function. So just the fact that, and we're not talking about an enormous amount, we're not talking about tons of slides, but we're demonstrating to them that we have a feel for their industry, where they've been, where they're at, and where they're headed. Again, not rocket science, but just that little perspective gives you another edge, gives you another check mark. And that will be the end of that'll be the end game is who gets the most check marks. You or the other advisor waiting in the wings or the 50th one that comes through. You've got to be the one with the most check marks. Okay? This whole concept of this kind of futuristic, what does the CPA-based wealth manager look like?
Hank? Yes, excuse me. Sorry about it. No, listen, the version I have in my hand that I copied like a month ago, I don't have, on my computer, I see notes in the bottom.
Yep.
I don't have that on the copy I made.
Yeah, you can check with you should have that. This is what's on the...
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, but the original copy I made off the website didn't have any notes on it.
Yeah, you might have made... Okay, did you print off like a PDF, or did you print off the PowerPoint?
I don't remember. It just says Global Wealth Management and their representatives only to be used in recruiting CPAs, and then it goes into today's... Part of the PowerPoint that says today's presentation is...
This is Scott.
Yeah.
There's a couple of ways you could... that you print it, and it's on the settings of it. So if you're looking at it, it may just print the slides.
I'll talk to you about that.
You want to print the note pages, and I'll circle back and show you how to do that.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for the interruption.
Oh, no need to be sorry, because it might be on the minds of everybody else. But bottom line is we want to get stuff in your hands that you guys can execute and implement. So just fire away on this stuff. Okay, what your clients are looking for. Okay, so some commentary there. The future wealth management model. So today's clients are much more sophisticated, much more comprehensive. They want help in a lot of different areas. And you're kind of planting a seed here of, wow, this is what your clients are looking for. You're considering moving into space, and here's what you're kind of behind the scenes telling them. Good luck trying to execute this model on your own. Now, you don't quite say it that way, but that's the message you're sending is, here's today's client, and they're looking for you to kind of orchestrate and quarterback this. Good luck. What we want them to say is, wow, this is overwhelming, but you're right, this is what the clients are looking for, and I really need to partner with someone that can help me in these areas. So what you're seeing here is the way that the meeting is unfolding, the way the PowerPoint is laid out is, first and foremost, we talk about their industry, their issues that they're facing, the evolution, right? Then we're talking about why they should enter into the financial services, client demands and expectations, how to do it. So we're logically moving them through to where they will answer these questions. Yes, our industry is evolving. Yes, my clients want me more involved. Yes, adding financial planning, wealth management services makes sense. Yes, I can't do it myself. I've got to partner with someone. And yes, you're the best partner. That's kind of logically how we're rolling them through. And that's how the PowerPoint is laid out. Okay? Now this slide it says, why enter into the financial services industry? So one of the things you'll want to say here from time to time is, you know what, why it's important, but it's not the real question anymore. The real question, because remember what we said earlier, like, hey, one thing we know is that CPAs want to get involved. They want to move in this direction. They just want to make sure they do it the right way. So this question, in our opinion, is a question that's outdated. It's 10 years old, it's 15 years old, whatever. It's no longer why should I add financial services, wealth management solutions to my practice. It's how do I do it, and how do I do it the right way. So you want to understand what you just did. You're kind of leading them, and it's true, though. So none of this stuff is just made up. It's true. You're leading them to say, you know what, guys, gals, why is not the question anymore? The world has changed. Your clients are looking for it. Da-da-da-da-da. It's how do you do it, and how do you do it the right way, and how do you do it with minimal disruption to your practice? That's the question today. And of course, that's what CPA Squared is all about. We're going to show you how to move in this area, increase your client satisfaction, increase your revenue, and all do it in a way that doesn't materially disrupt your practice. There's some slides later that talk about that. I was just a little bit ahead of the game. But you got to understand this PowerPoint, this meeting, your first impression, potentially your only impression, you've got to be able to lay it out and walk them through, and in our business it's called having mini closes. We're going to kind of close them as we go. Because it's a very compelling story, and it makes sense. Okay? So why, and then we talk about why they're in such a great position. CPA is that preferred primary advisor. We believe that the CPAs must do something, but there's some things holding them back. Conflict of interest, lack of expertise, damage to position as trusted advisors. Then, so now remember, we're moving them in a certain direction. Now we say, okay, if you're going to do something, there's really kind of three things you can do. You can outsource, you can insource, and you can co-source. Okay? So now we talk about, in this meeting, what outsourcing is, what insourcing is, and what co-sourcing is. So we walk them through and the different advantages and disadvantages. Okay? Now, our offer to them is moving CPAs from theory to practical application, because all this stuff sounds great on paper, but the key is to practically apply it, execute, and implement. Okay? This is now where we get an opportunity to answer some of those questions of who we are, what we do, the formula for success, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this slide here, Mike, why don't you address this slide? It seems like a really simple slide, but it is very powerful, and it is the essence of what CPA squared is all about.
Okay. I think the highlighted or bolded bullet point here is really the critical components of explaining to the CPA, because they listen, but when you start using the term without materially disrupting your CPA practice, they hear that, because that's important to them. They don't want to take on an extra burden. Remember, most CPAs do that 77 days of torture that they go through every year. They can't even imagine, adding on another service to their clients. So when we explain to them what we do, we really get into teaching them how to integrate wealth management services into their practice, how to increase revenue, and maintain client satisfaction. Well, what that really means is retention of clients. They're all about retaining their clients and help them make more informed decisions. But thirdly, and most importantly, we do all this without disrupting their lifestyle and materially disrupting their practice, which is critical.
Excellent. Okay. Formula for success. So we talk a little bit about this whole kind of combination of when we have the right financial professional, which is you, and you have the right CPA and accountant, which is hopefully them, and then you have the tool, systems, and techniques that's embedded in the offering, CPA squared, right? That will create client retention and increase revenue. We're going to kind of frame things. We talk about what the CPA brings to the table. We talk about what we bring to the table. And then when you collaborate the right way, the best of both worlds, if you will, then all this entire list is what the client gets, which is a good experience. Okay? Partnering, we believe this is the model of the future. This is what CPAs do, what the financial professional does, and then eventually the attorney finds its way in there under legal services. But we believe that partnering, professional collaboration is the model of the future. Clients love the team approach. Okay? Now we get an opportunity to talk about the proven system. So this is where we play to the characteristic of the CPA, who are systematic and they're linear thinkers. Okay, so they're linear thinkers, and so this arrows, this proven system, the MapQuest, it resonates well with them. And so you want to say, look, here's our system. We want to go through a practice profiling process. Then we want to do some client segmentation, create a marketing plan, financial services integration, and internal practice management. So we want to walk, and now you got to know all this stuff, and you will, by looking at the brochure. You'll be looking at the marketing plan. All this stuff is embedded in the system, but you will want to commit to memory the 5 components, the 5 success drivers of the proven CPA squared turnkey system. Okay? So know that code. Practice profile, client segmentation, marketing program, financial services integration, and internal practice management or checks and balances. So you want to learn that lingo, learn that process. Okay? Our advantage is, our objectivity is your advantage. So this is just another kind of play on what it is they're getting with CPA Squared. They're getting the co-source model, which we believe is the professional's choice, the appropriate products to help meet the client's objectives and stay independent and objective when you have a full arsenal of products and services, a wide range of wealth management services, partnering with experienced professionals. Key here is limited disruption to their practice. So as Mike talked about that slide is, we can show them how to enhance their client experience, maintain better relationships, retain their clients, increase revenue, position their firm. We can do all this stuff and have limited disruption and not materially disrupt their practice. That's something that's very important to them. Because remember, the in-source model, which we talked about before, if they got to do all this stuff themselves, if it's a major disruption, they're not going to do anything. So you have to give them an offer to where they can increase their revenue, better meet the demands and expectations of their clients, and do it in a way that doesn't disrupt their practice or materially disrupt their practice. Okay? Unique systems, techniques, and tools. And then, of course, very important that they do business with somebody, some firm, some organization, some system that has a successful track record. Okay? So just a little play there. CPA Plus. But you want to be able to kind of articulate that. Why CPAs use our system? These are the 6 key building blocks, things that they will be happy about, that will be impressed about, that will give them the confidence that we know, you know what you're doing and how the system has been built. Here's a timeline that gives them an idea of, if I say today, what makes sense, and we like to move forward. You know, it just depends. It could be 4 months, could be 2 months, could be 6 months, just depends. But here's kind of the things that we need to go through. CPA commits to financial service day and ultimately starts meeting in front of clients. It just gives you a timeline and it's an idea of how long this might take, and it certainly gives them that as well. And then we close with it's a maturing marketplace. It's a very aggressive, competitive environment. You know, CPAs will become a major player in the financial services industry. And then lastly, your clients have been waiting. How long will they wait until they go elsewhere? Again, it's that client. They're interested. They want you involved. And if you don't get involved, and again, I say this to them, you know, well, I'm an extremist. I just want to illustrate the point. It's possible that they will go elsewhere. Just to kind of plant that seed in there. I'll give you a quick story. Upstate New York, in Rochester, this was a while back, 2 very, very significant, very prominent CPA firms. Big players. One firm offered wealth management services and one did not. And one day, the firm that did not offer financial services wealth management watched as a $100 million client moved from one firm to the other. Because the other one was much more comprehensive, had the team approach, was integrating accounting, taxes, wealth management, financial, just all packaging that together. And that client loved that concept and felt it was better for them, and they watched this significant client of many, many years pick up and go to the other firm. Now, I just use that as an illustrative point. Will that happen? Yeah, maybe, maybe not. But the point is, more and more of your clients want you to be this independent, objective financial quarterback and start to look at a few other areas of their financial life. Okay, then we talk about the next steps. If there's a point here, this is it. Always, and I mean always, have action items, next steps, things to do, a to-do list. Because if you leave it up to the CPA, they will not follow up. They will not move things forward. They're running their practice. They're busy, they're successful, and you are not a priority, at least not yet. And so you always have to stay in front of them and give them action items and next steps to consider. So this entire presentation, this entire meeting has one primary purpose, and that is to get a next meeting so that you can complete what we call the practice profile, which we're going to have to cover in our next session because we're going to run out of time. Now, a couple logistic things. That first meeting, this initial exploratory meeting that we're talking about, to the extent possible, that first meeting is at the CPA's office. So you can so they're comfortable in their surroundings. You can get a feel for where they're at demographically, where they are in their firm. Hold on just a sec, guys. You want to have it done there. So remember, you're trying to figure out who are you going to partner with, who are you going to lock arms with, and you got to make sure they're they're not doing business in their basement. They have a nice office. I'm not saying you won't, but you have to kind of determine who and what you're going to work with and how you're going to work with, because you're already successful. This is a supplement and a complement to your existing business model. And so you have to determine, is this the firm I want to work with? Is this the firm I want to work with? Et cetera, et cetera. So going there makes a big difference. Now you'll see the next meeting, where we call that the profiling meeting. You'll want the CPA, if it's advantageous. Again, I don't know what your office situations are, where you do business. If it's to your advantage, that you can showcase some things. Maybe you have a little planning department. Maybe you have a good staff. Maybe you have an impressive office in a great location, whatever. I'm just saying, if it's an advantage to you, then that second meeting, you invite the CPA to your office, and that's where you do the practice profile. Okay? So that is what we call CPA intro. It's a track for you to run on. Hang on here just a sec. Okay? It's the track for you to run on. You want to know the slide-by-slide, the scripting, the lines in the play. You can do it formally or informally. But you're kind of going to get the gist of it as you get going. Okay, take a breather here just a sec. Got about 10 minutes left. Any questions, comments, input, thoughts on the CPA intro presentation and the introductory exploratory initial meeting? And as usual, I probably have worn everybody out. Okay, all right, so anything there, and you've got all that available. You've got the first meeting scripting, you've got the issues, objections, and roadblocks, you have the PowerPoint presentation, and then just in the interest of time, I want you to at least look at something, and we'll cover it on the next session. I want you to, if you haven't already, you need to look at the brochure. Now look where I am. I'm going to just take the steps from the start. Okay, so here's the member dashboard. Go into the turnkey system. I go into prospecting and formalizing the relationship. I go into the first meeting. That's where you see the PowerPoint presentation. That's where you see the scripting, et cetera, and then you scroll down to the bottom, and you see this thing called CPA Pocketed Brochure. I'm going to open that up. It's a big file. It takes a while to open up. We're going to cover this one in detail because, again, it's so much interesting information that you're going to need. You can see there's 13 pages to this kit. There's an introductory letter, which is what you're looking at here. I'm just going to scan through it. This will be one of your homework assignments, is I want you to go through this pocketed brochure, because it will show you the terminology, the jargon, the positioning, what the offer is. It will show you pretty much everything. And this is a brochure that you potentially could run a meeting off of, and it's something that you want to hand out potentially to your CPA prospects. You could email it to them, you could put it on a memory stick, you could print it off, whatever. Okay, so that's the opening introductory letter. And now what you're looking at is the actual brochure. And we'll go over this in greater detail next week, next Monday. And you go, this is the brochure that I'm scanning through. There's Scott and Mike, in case you guys didn't know what they look like. Mike on the left, Scott on the right.
Oh, there we go.
You guys see it?
I see it.
That's Mike and Scott.
Mike, good to see you again, bud.
Okay, and then, so this concludes the brochure. And then we have these 4 inserts. A look at no-bill wealth management. When you customize this brochure, this is one area, this one page here will be looking at your DBA, your local company, and we'll instruct you on how to do that. Co-sourcing, the professional's choice. Methods of integrating wealth management. Here's where we talk in great detail about outsource, insource, and co-source. The multi-step success formula, which we talked about, the practice profile, client segmentation, marketing, wealth management, and practice management. Okay? That piece, those 13 pages, you'll want to spend an enormous amount of time looking through it, understanding what's there, why it's there. It'll be a very helpful exercise. Okay, so that's the brochure that you could have sent it to them prior to your meeting. Most likely it's something that you could hand out during the meeting or at the end of the meeting, or to get another touch with the CPA, you could say, I'll send you an electronic version of our brochure. You could have one printed off yourself so you could go through it, and then you could send it to them, which will give you another opportunity to touch the CPA. Because the more you can touch them and drip on them and work, in multiple scenarios, the better. Okay? Now,
is Scott there?
Scott and Mike had to drop off.
Oh, okay.
They had another business that they need to get to. What's the question?
I wanted to go with him tomorrow to. I think I have the presentation, the PowerPoint.
Yep.
I don't have because mine's missing all kinds of titles and all that stuff on the pages.
Okay. Yeah, he can. Scott is a tremendous resource when it comes to the system, the tools, the documents. He can, if you don't have the right version, which I'm not sure why that's happening, but everything on the website, on the member dashboard, should be up to date. So it might have something to do with what you've downloaded or what your computer capabilities.
I'll get with him tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the agenda to see where we're at. Probably at a pretty good stopping point. I'm going to, next meeting, which is Monday, we're going to talk. Yeah, Monday. So there's the agenda. See, we're doing Monday, Thursday next week.
Okay.
Okay. So training session number 4 is scheduled for Monday, same time. And then Thursday will be the 5th one.
Okay.
So hopefully you guys recognize that and saw that on the training schedule.
I didn't.
Okay? So you don't get a full week rest from me this time around. In that session, then we'll pick up kind of where we left off. If you're looking at the agenda, we basically talked about prospecting, building your target list, first meeting, introductory meeting with CPA. Next session, we're going to talk about The second meeting, we're going to look through the practice profile, how to execute that, how to evaluate that. We're going to also look in greater detail the program brochure, which I just showed you that I want you to take a look at, but we'll talk about why it's laid out the way it is, the logic behind the headers, what it is we're trying to accomplish with that brochure, and then we'll look at the inserts as well. Okay, so we'll kind of pick up from that.
I'm good.
Okay, so there's the next training session. Let me pause just real quick here. Again, we still have 5 minutes left, but it's a really good breaking point. I don't really want to get on another subject here. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Where are you at? How can we help you? Just give me some feedback. Give me some input out there.
You're doing a very nice job of presenting everything.
Well, thank you. Now, you guys always know I have something to say, Mel, so thanks for the compliment, but here's what my real goal is to be able to download this information to you, and you absorb it so you can practically apply it in your marketplace and have success with CPA Squared. So, thank you for the compliment, but it's all about getting you equipped and empowered and making things happen at the local level. So thank you. What else?
It's a lot of stuff, Hank. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but like you said, it's not rocket science, but you have to go through this. You have to do it all.
It's not rocket science, and don't let me scare you away, because when I get institutions or advisors, and they're like, well, Hank, you seem to know this stuff, and you can kind of navigate, and obviously I do, and they're like, well, how long will it take us to get there? And again, you know me, I'm just an extremist. I try to make points today. It's going to take you 17 years. Right? Which obviously nobody would get involved here if it's going to take you 17 years. But my point is, you've got to go through the work. We're going to train and educate you. We're very supportive. You can reach out for anything, but there's still an element to it that you've got to go over and above, do the work, learn your lines in the play. Right? If you're willing to do that, and we're not talking about craziness here either, Mike, 18 months later, he's, at 30 million on his way to 50 million. He'll get probably 50 million in a 2-year period. Well, I think everybody would be quite ecstatic if you got 30 to 50 million over the next 3 to 4 years. But you can hear it from Mike. I've seen it. I've seen the advisors who are successful. I've seen the ones who are moderately successful. I've seen the ones who have failed miserably, and the themes are always the same. Okay, let me leave. If no one has any other questions, let me just leave you with my infamous quotes, and I'll recap 1 and 2, and then I have a new one for 3. So, if done right, CPA Squared will be a game changer. Vision is good, but action is great. And then today is practical application. You've got to take this stuff eventually, right? I'm trying to hold you guys off as long as I can. You've got to take this stuff and practically apply it. Those are probably my 2 best, those are my 2 most important words in anything out there, whether it's religion, whether it's business, health, relationships, whatever. We all know what's right and wrong. We all know what we need to do. It's who can practically apply it every day. And so those are really important to me, those 2 words, practical application. Taking what we're learning, taking the system, and practically applying it.
Hank, I just want to mention one more thing that was in this, the Wealth Manager Kit was, it mentions euphoric, preliminary euphoric response or something like that. It says, just because you have a CPA on board, the work is just starting.
It is. It is. And it's just, you got to have the right CPA on board. And that's what we're helping you do with the profile and better understanding it. Because you guys are established, you're successful, you have limited time and resources, you need to figure out, and man, it could be, like I said, it could be 5 relationships, could be 10, 20, 100, whatever. You need to figure out what works for you, and then go after, if it's only 5, go after the right 5. Right? But it's all about your practice maintenance, your time management, what it is your goals and objectives are, and how does CPA Squared play into that. I would think it plays into it very big because the most important thing to go, for an advisor to go from good to great, to elevate their business, it's really just getting in front of more clients. And the right clients, and if it's blessed and endorsed by the CPA, even better. So to me, the stakes are very high, and it's right in line with what you're trying to do with your practice. Obviously, that's why you guys are here.
That's right.
Okay, with that, I want to release everybody to a great rest of the day on Friday. Have a great weekend, and we will see everybody on Monday.
Take care, Hank. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.